Glad to be here, even if, of course, inevitably this time actually it comes to in a bit of a different format, but that actually touches a bit on one of the topics that we will be discussing in today's session, which is of remote working, right? So just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Christian Acolina. I am the Director of Program Management at Parallels, and actually in today's session, I want you to go through this agenda quickly. So a brief introduction about Parallels, who we are, and the Parallels product portfolio for those of you who are not as familiar. We'll be discussing obviously the new reality, something that was also mentioned in the previous session from Vidyareka Pro and from Control Lab, changes with respect to the pandemic. Obviously, we have been in discussions with various businesses and customers, and being an application desktop delivery, remote application server, we have some insights that we can share there. We go through the key benefits and capabilities as well of remote application server, and then we look at what's new. So the latest and greatest features that were introduced actually in the beginning of this year, and also we would touch a bit on what's next, very high level. Finally, we have some time for Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, as Alex mentioned, please put these down in the QA chat and we'll tackle those towards the end of the session as well. Okay, so without further ado, Parallels, who we are. Parallels has been partner of Corel Corporation for the last 2 years. We have offices located globally to support our customer base. We have global presence, in fact, in 140 countries, and we are supporting our customers direct or through channel with over 5,000 channel partners. Right, looking at the B2C arm of the business, we have over 7 million individuals, and looking at the B2B arm, we have over 50,000 businesses that are actually today using Parallels own technologies. When I talk about Parallels technologies, I'm referring to the Parallels product portfolio, of course. You might be aware of Parallels Desktop for Mac. For sure, that is something, this is the product that put Parallels on the map. This is where you are able to run Windows on Mac, in a coherent mode without even needing to reboot your Mac device. So it's basically the best of both worlds. A relatively newer product is Parallels Toolbox for Windows and also for Mac. So essentially, this is a collection aimed to increase users' productivity doing everyday tasks. So if you use, for example, the notification block or screen capture, screen record, all of these tools are captured in one toolbox and easily accessible from your Windows and Mac devices. Then we also have Parallels Access. So this is a one-to-one connection to your Windows or your Mac device from any platform, specifically for mobile clients, Android and iOS. Then we also have Parallels Mac Management for Microsoft SCCM. So essentially, this is a plugin where you could extend your SCCM capabilities to manage Mac computers similar to how you manage your Windows machines today. You image these machines, you also log them down. And finally, and obviously this is the star of this session, is the Parallels Remote Application Server. So it is an all-in-one remote application desktop VDI solution to allow users to use these corporate-based resources, line of business applications from any device and anywhere as well. Before looking at Parallels Remote Application Server, it's good to highlight, some statistics, some interesting data that we have collected amongst our customer base and also from surveys amongst third parties that we have also collected. And basically, we have tried to capture the most important in this slide here. On a survey future of remote work, telecommuting was one actually of the key factors that really have increased users' productivity and users' retention in the community and in the business itself, actually, right? And this comes actually to no surprise. I am located in Malta. I'm based in Malta. Malta is very small. It is 27 kilometers in length and around 15 kilometers wide. And it still takes me, say, 45 minutes to an hour, and I geographically live like 10 minutes away by car from the office, to go to the office, actually. And this is something that I haven't personally experienced lately as well. Removing that commute, those public transportation, and your personal choice of vehicle, for example, to go to the office, something that both businesses and employees have found very interesting. 82% of US businesses are using flexible work locations. Flexible work locations to add value to the business, to provide a better reach to their customers, right? And in the survey, actually, what came out is the flexibility helping in the work-life balance. Now, obviously, work-life balance is quite a big topic. We're not going to go through that today. And work-life balance actually means different things for different people. Okay, if I am on holiday, for example, it's not a work-life balance for me if I don't check in to my emails, for example. It's even worse if I don't do that. But what we have noticed talking to our customers and businesses during this period of time is more of a work-life integration rather than work-life balance itself, which is quite interesting. It's getting that personal data and the still be productive from a business point of view, but also handle any errands, family, home errands that you need maybe to do or need to be present. Of course, prior the COVID-19 situation, where recorded 7 million people working remotely in the US. Obviously, that number now has increased drastically. But what is very interesting amongst all these figures is the last one on the bottom right here, based on Gartner's research, that many business leaders expect that the work from home situation will be permanent even after lockdown. Okay, and this actually accelerated, all the efforts, and the value that we've been talking about, from Microsoft, Citrix, VMware, Parallels Remote Application Server, enabling remote access, secure remote access to your solution. Nowadays, companies had faced the situation where they actually needed to do something like this, and in a short matter of time. Yes, we had organizations that actually needed to just add more licenses to their users, which they obviously could have done very easily. We also dealt with organizations that were very new to this technology. So we've seen a lot of greenfields during this time going to remote application server. The advantages of remote working, I'm going to skim through this. We all know them, of course, but these were highlighted especially during this period of time. Of course, from a business point of view, we talk about talent attraction. You're not rigid to a specific area to attract talent. Maybe some areas, some states, or some regions in Europe as well do have some saturation when it comes to finding the right talent. But this obviously enables a wider market to attract new talent. The next three, employee productivity, satisfaction, and retention, actually go in a bit of hand in hand with each other. With respect to productivity, removing that telecommute, being able to manage your own time, and this is very important. There needs to be a certain level of maturity as well when you're working from home, right? You do need to allocate certain times, where you start, when you have those breaks, lunches as well, and actually know when to turn off. This is very important, because then you could eventually end up as well in burnout. So, but managing this properly, organizations have recorded a higher productivity levels amongst their employees, which inevitably as well adds with employee satisfaction. Okay, employees are satisfied with their work, are satisfied with that flexibility, that balance that they maintain. And obviously, having satisfied employees and productive employees helps as well in retention. I've been in interviews as well where the work from home was one of the say benefits, if I'd say back then, that whoever was applying was after, actually. But today this is a bit of a different situation, where now it's getting even more normal. So what is actually the new norm? Is the new norm going back to work? Is it staying at the home office, or working remotely, or even a mix of both? What's very important, obviously, when you're doing remote working is the communication tools. The communication tools that you use are more important now than ever. And of course, you need, as an employee, as a user, need to actually make yourself available and present. So sometimes we also talked about over communication during this period of time. So these are some of the advantages that have were highlighted actually from our customer base during this period of time. With respect to remote application server, where does that fit in? Of course, here we're just presenting some of the use cases. General use cases and some use cases I want to talk about from a technical point of view that really have outshone the others. So obviously, remote application server does provide clients for any platform and even for the mobile platforms, Android and iOS. So if you do have an application, maybe a line of business application that you need to provide your users access from smartphones, this can easily be done, but it's not just about providing the access. It's about productivity as well. So we actually embrace the device capabilities in a way that utilize the native gestures, pinch, zoom, swipe, but also there's some proprietary Parallels features there that make the usage on these small screen factor devices even better, such as magnifying glass, quick keypads, allow you to easily create shortcuts and are shown in the keyboard, so on and so forth. So mobile usage is very important as a use case from remote application server point of view. On the education side, we have seen a lot, especially in the US, students working on Chromebooks and able to access the Windows-based applications and desktops. So we're not just talking about HTML5 accessibility, but also a native client available on Chromebooks, which turns that Chromebook into a full-fledged workstation. Chromebooks originally were designed to be online, and this is something that many of our customers are enjoying as well. Security is another factor, is another key point, where the data is at data center. We all know that it should be at a data center where it resides actually, where it is owned, but accessed easily from wherever is needed, wherever is convenient, without the security factor, the security risk actually. And here we do have, remote application server does provide the granular filtering on top of the standard, obviously, security capabilities that are achieved from such solutions. So there's granular filtering in a way that who you will give access to, what user, what application, depending on location, maybe depending on device. So it can go quite granularly over there. There's also various policies that could limit capabilities such as clipboard redirection, drive redirection, just to customize the delivery as the organization needs. A very interesting use case that came out recently as well, more than maybe other capabilities, is the remote PC. So this is quite an old technology actually, and Parallels developers have written remote PC actually for them to continue working as well remotely, and this I'm talking about, back in 2006, 2007, back then 2x times. And what we found interesting is during this time, many organizations that had already invested in maybe powerful workstations at the office, but now they weren't able to go to the office, wanted to get access to such machines. And remote application server does provide that. Apart from RD session hosts, apart from desktop or server-based VDI, you could deploy an agent on a physical machine, or you could also choose all the machines that are in a particular OU in your Active Directory, and then you can broker access to these machines. Again, one-to-one, but we've seen a lot of requests for such technologies during these times. And finally, irrespective if it is corporate owned device, if it's a bring your own device, any devices, right? And here specifically, we're talking about personal devices. There was a study as well showing that users using personal devices are actually happier in delivery. Many of the times, the reason for that would be that the user specifically chose their device, their personal device. They invested in their personal device, and they use that personal device for personal activities. So the fact that they can use the same device that they love, to carry out additional work, again, we're seeing this work-life integration itself. Now, with respect to market itself, Parallels Remote Application Server, key benefits maybe for those who are not yet familiar with remote application server. And after this, we'll go actually through the key capabilities, what actually build these benefits from a technical point of view. So definitely superior user experience is super important. user's experience by providing, out-of-the-box capabilities like universal printing, universal scanning, any access from any device. But as I said before as well, it's not just about delivering to any device, it's using those devices' capabilities to enrich that delivery. Data security, as we mentioned, is one of the key benefits that organizations are looking at when employing such technology. IT agility and business readiness, remote application server is multi-platform independent and cloud independent as well. So you could have integration with various hypervisors, with Microsoft Hyper-V, with VMware vCenter, with Nutanix, Acropolis, with Scale Computing, all different hypervisors or hyperconverged solutions, and even cloud deployments, all in the same RAS site. So really and truly providing the right access to the users and the right auto-scaling and auto-provision capabilities on all these platforms based on business needs. One of the key pillars here of remote application server, and we always aim to continue building on this, is the ease of use and deployment. And whoever used RAS remote application server, anyone from the audience for sure would confirm this, the ease of use of the solution. So I know that in the past, maybe application desktop delivery were under the umbrella of complexity, and we try to tackle that. Try to tackle that by creating various wizards, all in one, from a management point of view, session management, configuration. All the infrastructure can be centrally configured. So you deploy agents to RD session hosts, to VDIs, to remote PCs, right? You add more gateways as part of the access layer, or more publishing agents as your brokers, and then you can easily go to pilot, go to production. Finally, very important as well is the reduction in cost of ownership, even when compared to other solutions in the market. Okay, the list price of remote application server comes at a fraction of the cost when looking at the likes of Citrix or VMware, for example, right? And tomorrow, actually, we have another session where we'll be looking in more detail into the market position between Microsoft as a way of how we enhance the value and how we enhance the capabilities there of the native RDS or WVD experience as well, and with respect to Citrix and VMware as alternate solution. So it started off targeting the SME marketplace more than the enterprise. We are slowly moving to the enterprise. However, we're not forgetting the SMEs. So the features that we include are in line to make it as easy as possible and to keep the cost as low as possible. And when I talk about cost, it's not just about the licensing costs. It's about the training that we provide to the partners. It's about the time to market. It's about the lower of overheads in maintaining a solution, and also the infrastructure requirements to actually be able to deliver, session-based desktop, to deliver multi-sessions, to deliver single sessions hosts. From a technical point of view, how would this look? It's an all-in-one license, so you have applications desktop delivery and VDI. There's no separate versions of licensing. We do provide PowerShell and REST APIs, so for whoever requires automation and scripting, universal printing and universal scanning is available, and it's out of the box as well as soon as you deploy that agent onto those workload machine. Being cloud ready, we are available on Azure and AWS Marketplace. We have the first feature, integration directly on Azure, which is something that I will be talking about shortly, as well as one of the new features. Load balancing, talk about load balancing, is the front end load balancing to the access layer, okay, with our own, what we call HALB, high availability load balancer, and also load balancing to the backend. So we look at number of user sessions, the CPU, the RAM, utilization of resources, and then broker to the right resource. There's a bunch of others, not going to go in each and every one, but it's very important to mention the auto scaling and auto provision capabilities and the session pre-launch. So this is one of the features actually released last year. It's not the traditional session pre-launch that we might have gotten used to. We have also what we call the AI-based machine learning session pre-launch. So we actually look at users' habits when they are accessing applications, and we pre-launch based on the user habit themselves. Okay, so this obviously would remove that negotiating stage when you are launching the session, and users' perception would be that once they manually launch that published resource, it instantly appears. That's because obviously it was pre-launched. The last three features here, multi-tenant architecture, SAML, single sign-on, and integration with Microsoft Azure, is something that I'm going to go through, skim through from a slide point of view, but I want us to go through a demo together on these features actually. So multi-tenancy, we created a new type of RAS farm, which we call a tenant broker. So this sits in front of the independent RAS farms. And the idea is that service providers or independent software vendors or anyone with multi-departments, for example, is allowed to share resources, share the access layers, share the load balancers, and share the gateways. Okay, so that provides lower footprint, of course, in terms of the hardware requirements that you need at the back end. Right? At the same time, it increases centralized management. So ideally for service providers, because obviously of different customers that they want to onboard, which now provides faster onboarding as well. Similarly, another feature, again, targeted for the same type of vertical is the single sign-on authentication. It's pretty much a de facto standard nowadays. We're giving service providers, ISVs, ability to focus on their line of business offerings and do identity and offload identity management to third parties identity providers. Both IDP initiated single sign-on flow is shown here, and also the SP initiated single sign-on flow is shown here. Both are supported, and something that we're going to see soon as well. And finally, the RDSH provisioning on Azure. So before this, we had already customers running on Azure, but this is complete integration. So by that, we mean that Parallels' own VDI technology in terms of auto scaling, auto provisioning have now been, can be used on top of Azure running VMs. So the focus here was on the IaaS part of the Azure. Right, so there is a virtual machine running there. We choose that as a template, and from template we create clones, and we use our own technologies and our own method of management from the RAS console. Other features worth mentioning: the AWS ALB support, dividing the ALB and NLB, and full support of AWS over there, and on the load balancing, the SSL certificate management, very important, especially if you have lots of gateways and HALBs, or if you are using a multi-tenant architecture, as we mentioned before, where you are able to centrally deploy any certificates to these nodes, and also manage them with seeing the expiry date, notifications, and automations as well related to that. Finally, drag and drop operations. So our idea is always to make the users feel that the application or desktop is not actually running somewhere else, but looks and feel that it's running on the device itself. And before this release, there was client to server, drag and drop. This release, we have also included server to client. So now we complete the bi-directional drag and drop support for the users. Finally, from a mobile point of view, it supports the latest capability, support the Apple split view and slide over, promoting as well the multitasking and productivity of users, and also Samsung DeX support. Right, where obviously using Samsung DeX, you can plug in with a TV to a monitor, and you can turn your mobile phone into a fully fledged workstation, essentially. Okay, let's actually have a quick look at the new capabilities here in a demo. All right, so this is my remote application server console. For those of you who are not familiar, the console here is an all-in-one console. We'd like to call that a single pane of glass. You're able to see all the components that build your infrastructure over here. And something I want to start off with, going through the main components, the RD session hosts. You deploy agents onto these RD session hosts. The VDIs, you choose the VDI provider itself. Let's give it some time here. There we are. We are able to deploy on VDIs. This is something that we're going to see soon as well. The remote PCs, the gateways as the access layer, publishing agents as the broker, and we have also introduced a new component called enrollment servers. This is for the single sign-on operation, for the SAML single sign-on operation. So what we do here is simply add an enrollment server. So we deploy an agent to a remote server, and then we integrate with Active Directory. So we point that to the certificate authority. We provide credentials for the agent itself and for opening the NLA. Once that is done, we are able as well to go through the connection category, and through SAML tab, you are able to add different identity providers. So in the same site, you can simply add here any identity provider. You can import from the IDP metadata or manually add this information, and this would look something like so. In my case, I have 2 different identity providers, and after I am done here, after configuring the identity provider information, service provider, which in this case it would be remote application server, we have the ability to customize attributes. Okay, how are we going to map that SAML attribute from the IDP to the AD attribute? Okay, after that we assign this identity provider to a specific team. So we have already in the past various capabilities for service providers, for multi-tenancy, and Teams is one of them. So Teams allows you to customize the experience of the HTML5 client and also the Windows client, changing the logos, colors, branding, so on and so forth. In this case, for example, I assigned a new team with that Azure IDP. So if we had to look at that from an end user's point of view, we just minimize here and launch my browser. This is the standard logon portal, our HTML5 client portal. If I use the same address, but this time I go to team 1, which is the one that is assigned with the IDP provider, which is Azure, it takes me to Azure to put in the Azure credentials. I've also enabled this as passwordless authentication. I just received a confirmation on my phone. There we are. I approve that. I can choose to reduce the number of times for login here, and then I am redirected to remote application server environment where you can see all your resources. Right? And as you can see as well, with a branded configuration. And I can easily launch any resources as required, right? Any applications, any desktops. Okay, I am using Azure here, and this is an environment that's running actually on US side of Azure. And as you can see, the experience is pretty fluid as well. I'm not sure how you can see it through GoToWebinar itself. So like that, applications, listing, desktops, and also launching a session, all single sign-on. So great from an end user's point of view as well, end user's experience. I mentioned both SP initiated, as we've seen now, or IDP initiated. So you could also, for example, go to My Apps, Microsoft.com, see all the running applications. You log on and you would see here the Parallels Remote Application Server is one of your applications, right? And clicking there would take you directly to the list of published resources as well. So that's SAML in a nutshell. What I mentioned as well is multi-tenancy, right? So multi-tenancy is the ability to share that access layer. And here I can show you that opening another console, this time pointing to my tenant broker. As you can see here, I'm able to see all my tenants. This time I have one tenant, but the tenant broker itself has gateways, has publishing agents. So what happens is different users from different tenants would hit these gateways, and depending on where they are coming from, they are brokered to the right farm, to the right RAS environment. Okay, in this case, I just have one here, which is being presented as this farm. Oops, there we are. So we have 1 minute left, which is presented on this farm over here. That is the tenant broker. Finally, the VDI point of view, we have the ability to configure Azure, direct configuration with Azure. I can see the running guest VMs on Azure here, and I can also have those templates. And in the templates, we can choose, apologies for that, we can choose to create clones based on specific resource groups based on specific instance types and models as well. Okay, let's go back to presentation because I'm conscious of time. What is next? So we have Parallels RAS 18 coming up. Okay, now this is coming up towards the end of this year. It's no news, essentially. We have some information online as well with respect to desktop as a service I am mentioning here, but it is truly the WVD part that I am referring to. We have seen requests as well from our customer base, and our aim is to provide a unified administrative experience and users experience so that customers can make use of Windows virtual desktops with the ability to easily configure, deploy, and access those resources as well. Similarly, as well on the profile management side, right? As we've seen in the VDI, like a pro survey, FS Logic's Microsoft FS Logic profile containers is very popular. We do have today integration with UPDs, user profile disks. We will be adding more information over there to support the newer profile management solutions. From an admin and user experience, there will going to be a lot of improvements there. Again, building on one of the most important pillars with respect to the remote application server to make it very easy for admins and users to gain access. Scalability and automation will be the focus for RAS 18. So this is something that we will be able to discuss in more detail in the coming months, actually. And we're also going to create a new type of delivery method that would reduce the IT costs. So you have less hardware that you would require to actually operate a VDI or RDSH environment. So all of this, much more in more detail, of course. If you are interested in a private preview, we'll be launching this in September timeframe. Okay, after that, we go to public preview and GA a couple of months later on. If you are interested, please fill in your request, raspmteam@parallels.com. What I wanted to mention as well is the VIPP program. So I can't believe it's been 4 years already. This is when we launched the VIPP program. It was at E2EVC, I believe it was in Rome, right, back in 2016. VIPP, for those of you who do not know, it stands for Very Important Parallels Professional. There's another acronym for you, right? But what it really is, this is a team of experts, a group of experts. I'm sure you all know and love the VIPP members that we have today. We have 14 of such experts that together we collaborate, we discuss, and we help shape the future of remote access or remote application server. What we started from last year is keeping it open as well for others to join in. So if you are an enthusiast, an expert, you would like to show, to voice your opinion in what could help the future of remote access solutions, and also able maybe to influence the roadmap, you are open, of course, to apply. And tomorrow, just to close with this, tomorrow we have another session. At the moment is targeted for 3 in the afternoon, where we're talking about more RAS remote application server from a market positioning. So again, with respect to Microsoft, Citrix, and VMware, it's about discussions of different technologies, and also a feedback session. So that feedback session is actually going to be based on the topics, the discussion points that we would uncover from the survey. So please, we are inviting you to participate in the survey. We're launching the survey right now, right? Just 4 points here. Main pain points that you see in the EUC, VCC market. You know, useful features in RAS today, maybe the one for those of you who are familiar with RAS already. Some differentiating factors that you think RAS should add to its roadmap. Okay, and any general comments. So feel free to use your phone as for the barcode reader. It takes you directly to the site here, survey.parallels.com /S3/E2EVC 2020. And participating will actually give you a big chance to win a free pass to E2EVC Athens, obviously assuming that it's still going to happen as it is today, and also a free pass to Guy Leaf's paid masterclass that's for tomorrow on PowerShell, efficiently troubleshooting Windows problems with PowerShell tomorrow at 2 p.m.